Welcome to the Spiritual Principles Made Practical podcast. I'm your host, Scott Friedman. And today we're going to think about what happens if we think of life as an adventure. And and there's a lot of reasons for that, but one of them is that um, it uh, it's honest because at least in my mind, and that's kind of how I present things, is how I understand them, right? In my mind, it's that, the being that I am, that is all that is, created will, and will created my mind, and it gave my mind instructions to create duality, to have the adventure, right, of appreciating what my unique talents are, right? Because if everything is just one and there's nothing, there's no other to interact with, then there's no contrast, right? So um, that's really the case of what reality is. But I directed my will to create my mind to create contrast. And so the whole thing is it's an adventure to try to learn about what my sort of divine talents are, right? So I have the divine talent of creation, right? And because my mind creates nonstop. And I have the divine power of love and joy and anger and frustration and it's like, I mean, all of those things, right? So the divine powers are the ones we usually think are positive, right? And they are. But without contrast, we can't recognize them. And so it's like, okay, so I think it's fair to say that it's an honest appraisal of life is to say it's an adventure of self-discovery. And we use our mind to create contrast to aid in that self-discovery. And so it's like, okay, so I mean, part of it is just unraveling the game, right? Is like, okay, well, how do I understand this as uh, something that I created to allow me to experience more of my divine qualities. And it's like, okay, well, and so then even if it's negative, right, I can say, well, yeah, you know what, I created that anger so that I could um, uh, appreciate happiness. And without and that's why I created the anger. So even if I'm angry, I can say, well, I'm angry and I don't really like being angry, but it does provide contrast for me to appreciate being happy. And I wouldn't appreciate being happy if I didn't have some anger. So, okay, that's what I'm doing. And it's, I don't know, I just find it um, gives me a level of detachment and understanding that helps, right? Because there are so many things that in the world that are hard to understand. But when I'll give you an example. So it's like there's like this, global situation, right, where there's wars going on, right? And it's like, well, how did I create that? How did I, why do I even pay attention to that? Why am I not like all these other people that just don't pay attention to that stuff? And it's like, well, you know what? When I look at it from the standpoint of adventure, I go, well, when I succeed at making win-win thinking the dominant thinking in the world, those wars are going to go away because if people have the ability to identify and implement win-win thinking, then there is no reason to go to war, right? And so it's like, okay, I created all of that so that I could investigate and see my power and my ability to create a world where win-win is the dominant thinking in the world to realize my power in creating that world. And it's just wonderful to be able to think of things in those terms because, well, for one, it makes sense and it resonates with me. And it's like, well, why am I interested in global affairs when other people aren't? And well, some are, but some aren't, right? And it's like, okay, well, all of that is differentiation, right? So it's like I wouldn't even realize I was interested in global affairs if everybody was interested in global affairs, but everybody's not, right? Some are, some aren't. So it creates a contrast. So it's like, oh, okay. So that's part of my adventure, right? And it's really helpful to me to gives me a lot more freedom to consider how I want to look at things. and it gives me more detachment about how I want to look at things, and I see things more clearly, like what I just said, you know. And so, um, I mean, one of the things that, clearly, one of the talents that I'm looking at is persistence, right? Because I'm like this amazingly persistent guy, right? It's, I work on things. I mean, I can tell you things that I worked on that took years to accomplish, and some of which, I've been working on decades and still haven't accomplished, right? But I've inched away at it, and it's interesting, and I've learned this along the way, and I've learned that along the way, and so it's just interesting for me, and I think that when life becomes an interesting adventure, there's a level of freedom and understanding that I'm not sure otherwise exists. And so, one of the things, to consider is that to what extent do I see life as an adventure of self-discovery? And if I see things that way, what does that do for me? And for me, it adds a lot more joy to life for me, and that's one of the big things I'm looking for, right? Is I want to enjoy my life all I can, and I understand, I mean that there's going to be contrast, right? So there's going to be some parts of life that just suck. They just flat out suck, and okay, but if I look at those as okay, that's just providing contrast so that I can be excited and joyful about when I create what I want and what's wonderful and loving and uplifting and happy. Yeah, okay, it's not so bad, It's price of admission. But if I can look at it that way, it really helps me. So looking at it as an adventure is to me a really it's a point of view I think that's worth checking out. That's what I'll say about that. So anyway, check it out. Let me know. I'm still trucking away, right, at making win-win thinking the dominant thinking in the world, and so I don't want to miss an opportunity to send you my invitation to be a guest on my show, a podcast of a time when you participated in a win-win situation and it really worked out well. And the other thing is that, trust me, if you have anything good going on in your life, I can promise you that you've participated in a win-win situation to create whatever is good in your life. And we all have something good in our life. So even if you don't right now understand that as win-win and see it from a win-win perspective, if you'd like to come on the show and I'll help you identify win-win in your life, because what happens is that once we identify win-win in our life and take ownership of our ability to create win-win solutions that are uplifting and stuff, we want to do more of it, right? Because I mean, who doesn't want to be lifted up? I mean, come on, seriously, right? And so that there's an opportunity for you if you want to come on the show and sort of be a guinea pig. And if it doesn't work out, I'll give you the right to okay, I won't post it if you don't want me to. But I think it'd be great. I think it'd be exciting because not only will you and I get better at identifying and implementing win-win solutions, but we'll inspire other people to as well. And that's really, you want to know what you can do to make a huge impact in the world? I can tell you right now is you can participate in win-win solutions, identify them, and share them in a way that inspires other people. And if you do that, I promise you for sure, no doubt about it, absolutely 100% sure, you're making the world a better place. So if you want to know, that's one of an infinite number of things you can do to make the world a better place. But we should take advantage of that. So you can contact me for that or for coaching in general, which I do, at scottfriedman40@gmail.com, SCOTTFRIEDMAN40@gmail.com. My books are available on Amazon. You can find links to them on my website, www.thoughtcoachingbyscott.com. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing from you. I'm excited even at the prospect of connecting with you and working on identifying and implementing more win-win solutions in the world. Okay. Bye.